Hello, hello. In this episode of All In with Allie, we are going to discuss if business really is slower right now, or is it you, and how we can ride the wave of a very interesting economy until the pendulum inevitably swings in the other direction. And most importantly, how can you shift from fear to faith and capitalize majorly on what I think is a major opportunity in the making. So this is going to be a powerful conversation, whether you are in the best business season of your life or you're in a slower season, doesn't matter. This is for you. Let's get into it. Oh, and this will not be a fear-based conversation. I can promise you that. So let's get into it. Welcome to All In with Allie podcast, the podcast for entrepreneurs and online business owners who are ready to create the life and business of their dreams. I am so happy you are here. So I mentioned in the last episode that I have been very social lately. I've been having a lot of conversations with people in general, but a lot of business owners. So it's totally normal for me on a standard week to be in conversation with dozens of women anyway, because that's the nature of my business. And I have active containers going on at all times usually. So I'm, very tapped into women business owners in general in many different industries, in addition to other colleagues who are in, the coaching industry and friends who are in other industries, right? And I've noticed something super, super interesting with these people. I've noticed that it truly just depends on the person, like what it is that they're focused on. So I've noticed that either somebody is concerned or feeling cautious and very aware that there might be something potentially looming to be concerned about because they're seeing evidence that their business is slowing down. So, they're assuming that there's something greater happening. I have noticed women who just simply aren't concerned at all, not because their business is doing great. Their business could be in any shape, and that obviously they would have to be honest about that for me to know. But, there's no concern at all. It's just like they understand the nature of business and it is what it is. And, they know that it's a wave and, to get through the wave, you ride the wave and there you go. And then I've also noticed some people who are hyper focused on the big R word that's being thrown around like confetti in the States right now. So obviously I'm talking about recession, and I know that I'm very fortunate to have other listeners that are, all over the globe, which is the coolest thing. And I don't know what's going on in your specific economy. I barely know what's going on in ours, but it's a hot topic right now. And it's been a hot topic, hasn't it? And I've noticed that anytime that this is a conversation, again, there are those people that are hyper focused on it. And then there are others that give negative fugs, like nothing at all. They're completely detached. They're either unaware or again, they just don't care. They understand, or they have a belief that it simply doesn't affect them, or not in any significant way or any significant lasting way, right? So anyway, my point is there's people all over the map, like in terms of their thought process and their belief on, and again, these are for our purposes, all women who are in the United States who, base all over the map in terms of like what they think is going on and how it relates to their business and so on and so forth. So what does this mean? Who is right? Are we headed toward an economic downfall that's going to take us all down? Is it all fear-mongering baloney or something in between? Here's my hot take, okay? Which is what you're here for. And take it or leave it. You do not have to, you already know this. I don't have to remind you, but this is just my opinion. No matter what you believe, about the state of the economy and how it's going to affect you, you're probably right. Here's why. We cannot control what an economy as a whole does, but we can control what we do about it. So if you assume doom, I would also assume that your actions will reflect that. You'll likely spend less. You'll likely invest less. You may even shift your business in a way that may or may not even be necessary, trying to avoid some sort of crash, right? If you are somebody that assumes things will eventually even itself out in time, your actions will no doubt reflect that, right? You're not going to make any sudden movements. You might tighten up things a little bit just to be smart, just to make yourself feel safe. But again, like no big drastic changes, no actions out of fear. So, it's going to come down to you. And I say that not to shame anybody who is feeling fear right now. I say that not to paint a picture of delusion that if your business isn't doing so great, just pretend that it is, or don't fall into the trap of getting all worked up over what potentially could be a bigger issue. I'm simply just saying, whether you believe it's something to be super concerned about or you're not really that concerned about it, you're probably right. And some of you might be thinking, that's literally how an economy crashes, right? Because the outlets freak the masses out, the masses slow their spending, and then the negative ripple effect ensues. But here's something else for you to consider if you're open to it. While it is absolutely true that there are people investing less out of fear, this is totally true. It's also true that there are going to be people that give up in the coaching industry or the online business industry, whatever industry you're in. There are going to be people who get freaked out or who simply don't have what it takes to ride the current wave that we're in and give up or close down or whatever completely. So what does that leave you with? Opportunity. Okay. And I'm not saying that we're celebrating the fact that some people are going to quit or that we're celebrating the fact that some businesses are going to close down or they're forced to go find another avenue of revenue for the time being or whatever. These things happen. But with that comes a certain level of opportunity that if you're smart, you look out for. So when things like this happen, when things get shaken up in the economy, or again, there's a lot of fear-based conversations, even if they are rooted in statistical facts, there is going to be, and typically is, a thinning of the herd. That's just part of it. So that part isn't in question. There's going to be people who leave or who get put out. But the thing that is in question is, will you be here in your power when this wave has come and gone? What does that mean? Will you be the one who, regardless of what everybody else is doing and how they're reacting and the things that they're focusing on and the things that they're doing, will you be the one that continues to act within integrity of your beliefs and your brand and focus on the things that you can control? Will you be a smart business owner? Will you be resourceful? And will you be the one who is still standing here when the dust settles, when it inevitably settles? Because that's all that this is. It is a moment. It is a trend. It's a wave. That's what business is. It ebbs and it flows. I think of it all the time like, well, here's a good one, like a relationship, okay? There are many seasons and phases of a relationship. So let's take like a married couple, for example. There's and they don't even have to be married. Okay, let's just take a relationship in general. There's the best part, right? Which everybody loves, which is the honeymoon phase. And then if you stay together long enough, you're going to have rough patches in your relationship. There are going to be things and miscommunications and seasons that you just have to work through. And if you want to be together, you work through those phases. So when things are good, right? When the economy's good and we're in a honeymoon phase, nobody's going to leave. As a matter of fact, that's when everybody comes in. So let's take 2020, for example, like during COVID. That was a huge opportunity where a lot of people, we saw this mass joining, this mass enter of the coaching industry because people didn't or couldn't work in their regular job. We didn't know, nobody knew what was going on, right? But then all of a sudden there's this industry where people are still making money, if not more money than the average person and more money than they've ever made before in their life. Other people are seeing that and they're like, hey, I want to work from home. I have a skill. I could teach something. I could, take this and transfer it into some sort of coaching situation. So people seized that opportunity and we saw this mass joining of an industry or entering or whatever the opposite of a mass exodus is. That's what we saw in about 2020, 2021, where people saw that this is an opportunity. But a lot of those people don't have what it takes. A lot of those people, while they may or may not have great intentions for wanting to join, they simply don't have the heart for it. It was just this shiny penny at the time. It was an opportunity. They jumped on it. But just like any other relationship, the second that it goes from honeymoon phase to a little bit of rocky, some people dip. And you see that in relationships too, right? It's like the second that arguments start happening or it's not fuzzy and cuddly anymore, people break up because they're simply not meant to be together. We are about to see this in our industry, in the online business space. Now that it's getting a little rocky or it's not as fruitful and honeymoon vibes as it might have been a couple of years ago, there's going to be people that it's not meant for them. So they're going to go on to the next thing or back to what they were doing. And that's perfect. So you have to ask yourself, do I want this? And by the way, some of you might be in a honeymoon phase in your business right now. And I'm certainly not saying, and this is not meant to be a fearful conversation or make you double take or rethink what's going on in your business at all. If your business is going well, great. If you're in the honeymoon phase of your business, great. Enjoy it, live it up. And again, stay because I've got some things for you. But if you're not, and you feel like, okay, it's been better, or I'm new, it can get better. Cool. How bad do you want it? That's the question you need to ask yourself. If you want this, if you want to stay in this relationship that is online business, then there's a few things that need to happen. You need to get resourceful, which we're going to talk about, maybe possibly pivot a couple of things, a couple of behaviors. There are some things that we can tweak, but the big thing is stay in the game. Like, what can you do to stay in the game? What can you do to stay in the relationship to get past this ebb and get to the next flow? Because it's there. Are you going to be around when it comes? And if it's not meant for you, don't judge yourself. That's great information to have. But move on. That's okay too. That's a really powerful realization. If you're like, you know what? When things are good, I love this. But when things aren't good, I hate it. I don't want to be here anymore. I'd much rather be doing whatever. Go do whatever. That's absolutely cool too. But the fact of the matter is, business will always ebb and flow. This is not new. You may be new to it, but this is not new. This is just the nature of the game. You will always have dips in revenue between your peaks. So I talk a lot about, and I've referred to like the growth and the steady growth of my business, right? I started my business it was 2018. negative $5,000 in revenue, 2019, $190K, and then $290K, and then $506. and then 764, I think, last year, right? So like if you put those numbers on a graph, you see a pretty drastic upward slope, which is beautiful, right? Like that's what we want to see in business. But if you were to zoom in to each of those years, you see the roller coaster from hell. You see some months high, some months low, some months high, a few months low, a couple of months high, even more months low. It's just like this ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. And that's all that this is. So it's up to you for how long or deep those dips go and how well you ride that wave. So I think, back to what I said earlier, with these different levels of conversations that I noticed and like who's right, who's wrong, is it the person who's hyper-focused? Is it the person who could give 0 Fs? Is it the person in between? It totally depends on them. It's because if you aren't really overly concerned. I'm not saying, again, be delusional. I'm not saying put your head in the sand, but if you don't hyper focus on fear-based situations and potentials, you just know that, yes, those are possibilities for you. Okay. And just like those are possibilities, positive situations are also possible for you. It depends on what you focus on that's going to dictate your actions. If you believe imminent doom is coming, you're going to behave way differently than if you believe this is just a tiny little season. We're going to get through it. And, you're going to be smart, but you're going to come out on top because that's just what you do. I want you to imagine the difference of those actions of those two different people. You're right either way. It's just, what do you want to be right about? This is going to be hell, or this is going to be a great opportunity for you. So this is a call, in my opinion, for the survival of the fittest. How bad do you want this? And what are you going to focus on? So let's bring it back, depending on where you are, okay? So if you are somebody who right now you're experiencing a dip in your business, this is a call for you to be resourceful. And this is a word that's been coming up so much in my world. And I know why, because this is also a call for me to be resourceful too. And there's things that I'm doing as well, because I'm lucky in that like my dips were a little bit earlier in the year and there were a lot of different things, but like I can, there's still dips here. I'm noticing like the peaks are getting higher and like it fully depends on the day that you talk to me. But business can always be better, in my opinion. I would say last year, business couldn't get better. and this year, it's not bad because I've put in a lot of work and effort to make sure that I have the things in place to maintain a level of sustainability. But it can also be a lot better too. So you're not alone here. And I'm totally willing to be honest about that. So if you are somebody who's experiencing a dip right now, again, this is your call to be resourceful. It's not a call to give up. It's not a call to freak out. It's not a call to make a bunch of decisions that you normally wouldn't make out of fear. It's simply a call to like, what are some things that you're doing that aren't working that we can pivot? Maybe that your offers could use a little bit of a refresh. Maybe you've dipped a little bit with your brand and with your level of consistency. Maybe you feel like things have gotten a little dull and you can spruce it up a little bit. And this is an opportunity for you to go back to the drawing board and refresh your brand based on who you are right now. And then also let's talk about the resourcefulness. What this simply means is, how can you ride this wave to the best of your ability without having to give up or get pushed out? Okay. So I say that because this is just going to look different for everybody. But for some of you, this might look like cutting back on a few things. Maybe there are a few expenses that just aren't necessary right now. That was the case for me. There were things that, last year when my business was experiencing this massive boom, for me, when things like that happen, I'm just like, I'm signing up for everything left and right. I'm like, yeah, let's do this service and let's do that, signed up for like a million different subscriptions and things. And when the money is flowing at a certain rate, sometimes it's really easy to not pay attention to loss of money flow that, again, isn't necessary, that you really don't care that much about, right? Like the subscriptions that are like, we don't even really like that. We don't even use that anymore. Like we signed up for a bunch of tools in my business that we tested out and we kind of like stopped using, but we're still paying, $20-$30 a month for. That's what I'm talking about. There are things like we can cut the fat here so that no matter how long this season goes on, you're okay. You're still in the game. So again, that might look like cutting back on a couple of things. This might look like bringing on a certain level of support for yourself, which looks like investing in something. Maybe this looks like, okay, now isn't the time for me to cut costs. Now's the time for me to double down on what I'm doing to maximize this opportunity. Maybe your issue is that you don't have enough support, so you're wasting a ton of time doing a bunch of shit that you shouldn't be doing instead of doing money-making activities in your business. So maybe now's the time that you do hire that coach, or you do get that program, or you do sign on the VA or whatever. And again, double down on your potential, because you know that if you don't bet on yourself, who will? Maybe for some of you, it looks like taking out a business loan or a credit card or something like that. These are things that not a lot of people talk about, but for the right person, this is a good solution for you. This is something that I have looked into. So I personally have an excellent relationship with PayPal. I've been using PayPal since 2018. I've talked about the growth of my business. They see that I'm in here, right? Like I'm not going anywhere. I've got great credit with them. I make great, consistent money flow all month, every single month. And they have different levels of financing. Yeah, like loans or financing that you can get through them if you want to go their route. So they have like a literal business loan. All these things, like do your own research, go look into it. But they have like a business loan that how does that work? That one, it does go through your credit and you pay off weekly. So they give you the money up front and then they charge you weekly for it. So they take out a small percentage, every single week to start paying off that loan. And there is interest involved in that. I don't know the exact amount. And then there's a working capital loan, which is all based on your sales. So it doesn't go through your credit. That is available to you if you have a good relationship with PayPal and some history with PayPal. This might be available to you, or and they have different limits that are available to you depending on your money flow and your relationship, your credit with PayPal. And the way that works is you can get whatever amount that makes sense for you. You get that and you pay it off via your future sales. So they'll take anywhere from, I think it's like 10 to 30% of future sales to pay off that loan. And then I think it's like right now around 10% interest on top of that because you borrowed the money. So not for everybody, for sure, but for the right person who's in a dire enough situation who wants to stay in the game, these things are available to you and they could be an absolute life changer. People take out business loans all the time. Brick and mortars take out business loans all the time. That's the reason why so many businesses are in business, is because of options like working capital loans and business loans. So no shame, just do your research, talk to your partner, and maybe that's something that might be a good move for you. So here is what I am doing. And I've already talked a little bit about like where I'm at, things. Again, I'm so thankful that last year, my big goal was to scale my business or get my business at a level where it's scalable. And I've done that. It can always be better. I'm working on scaling it even more. But because I've put in the work to do that, we have a level of consistent, steady revenue every single month. That's a foundation. And then everything else is icing on the cake. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And if I'm being honest, again, I still feel a little bit of a dip myself. So I'm out there riding the waves right along with you. And here's something that I've learned about myself that I'm taking as such a powerful lesson. And I want you to try this on for yourself too. Because when things like this happen, when anything happens in your business that isn't lovely, that you're not obsessed with, there's a lesson in there for you, right? It's like, okay, why is this happening? How can we avoid this in the future? There's something here for you. I know by going through this season myself, one thing that I'm realizing, because it's been so long since I have felt this way that I forgot. Again, last year, it was just like freaking gangbusters in my business. So it was like not even a question. You know, my safety as a business was never in question. Now that there's a little bit of the ebb happening, I have had moments where I do feel unsafe, and I don't like that feeling. I hate it, actually. Like that feeling of, oh gosh, how long, like even being concerned about how long a season is going to last or how bad it will get. That's not where I like to stay. And for me, this is just an opportunity to put myself in the position to not feel that way again, right? Like, how can we create even more of a foundation, even more of a safety net? So while I have this foundation in my business, what I lack is that safety net. So God forbid if something were to really pop off or whatever, we have savings, but like for my business, I don't have something that I could dip into for, quote unquote, worst case scenarios. And now in this season, it's very, like, I'm very hyper aware that I don't like that. I don't like being in that position. So now my goal is to make it to where I don't feel that way. I want our family to be good. I want my business, I want safety nets, not in a fearful way, but put into place so that it doesn't even have to be a thought in my mind, to where I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do in my business in order just to make a sale. I'm not opposed to hustling by any means. Your girl loves the hustle, but I never want to be in that position where it's like, oh gosh, we need to make money. We need to make money now. So like, what's something we can put out there? I don't love that vibe. And the goal is to never have to get in that vibe. So I've already mentioned I'm cutting back on unnecessary subscriptions, unnecessary expenses, some spending, and it feels good to know that resources like the working capital loan from PayPal is something that's available to me. So worst case scenario, I've got that to fall back on. But those are the things that I'm doing. And I would say more than anything, or in addition to that, I am doing my best to get back to enjoying the ride. What does that mean? So y'all know, listen, I am a metaphor queen. Okay. I live for a good business metaphor, and especially a road trip one. Okay. But business is like a road trip, truly, right? You have this vision of like when you've quote unquote made it and you are on track to that. So how you get there is you keep driving. Like that's the goal, to keep driving. So when you're on a road trip, and especially a long one, there's a big difference between getting in a car, not turning on music, focusing on every single mile marker on the road, stopping every few miles, wondering how long you've got. Like there's a big difference between that and another difference between getting on the road, turning on the music, enjoying the scenery, trying to make the best of it, listening to an audiobook, listening to my podcast. Like those two experiences are going to be very different, even if you're headed in the same direction to the same destination. One is going to feel miserable and like it's taking years, and the other one, you get there before you even know it. And you're like, holy crap, how did I get here so fast? Like I don't even know what's been going on. I've just been having the best time doing me. That's what I've been focusing on, right? Like not letting a slower season in business affect how I feel about the rest of my life, and not like getting so down about it. Certainly not making it mean anything about me, right? Just because if there is a moment that sales are down, that doesn't mean anything about me, about my ability to impact people and to teach people. It is what it is in this moment. So just like on a road trip, you're going to hit bouts of traffic where things are a little bit slower, but you don't pull off to the side of the road, park and cry about it and wonder if, maybe by crying, you'll get there faster. No, you stay in the traffic and you trust that eventually the traffic's going to clear up and then you're going to be breezing down that highway again. Business is the same thing. All right. So go back, like no matter what's going on, how can you bring it back to enjoying your experience? Put some things into place, make yourself feel supported, get resourceful if you need to, but then bring it back to what is working and how can I enjoy this again? So one thing that I notice anytime something happens in business, I personally can get super hyper focused on that. And it can affect my whole mood and shift how I feel about everything, when in reality, that's just one tiny thing that isn't going perfectly my way and everything else could be great, right? So like my relationship with Chris could be perfect. My babies are healthy and doing well. My relationships with my friends are going great. My relationship with Spirit is going great. Like everything could be great. But if the second that business gets a little rocky, then it feels like nothing's working, that nothing's going right. And it's just not true. That's just one little part that isn't going the exact way that I want it to go sometimes. Same thing happens in my relationship. Sometimes Chris and I go through little funks. We went through one this week. It was stupid. We're cool now. Sometimes my kids get sick. I don't sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's going to shit. Holy crap, he has the flu. Everything's just like nothing's working, and have a freaking meltdown. I mean, you might have a meltdown, but it doesn't I don't snowball it into everything's not working or everything sucks like I sometimes do in my business. So sometimes your business is going to get a little sniffle. Sometimes your business is going to go through a little bit of a funk. Don't let that take everything else down in your life. It's just a tiny little snapshot in what will eventually be an incredible image, an incredible movie of your life, of your career. But you are the director of the show. It's up to you to decide how this story is going to go. This little snapshot, wherever you are in business right now, what's going to be the greater story? Because you are in large part in charge of that. Again, because what you decide to focus on and what you think and believe might be happening is going to dictate what it is that you do. So now would be a really beautiful time, if things aren't going great in your business, to paint a hero story and start telling yourself and start envisioning the story of how it all turned around and how you hung in there and how you made really smart decisions and you did what you needed to do and you didn't let it dictate the rest of your life. And, you came out the other side better than ever. And while other people ran off and decided to do other things because they didn't have what it takes, you were standing when the dust settled and it was the greatest opportunity of your career. I recommend telling that story, envisioning that story, because that story is possible for you. Okay. So a couple of call to actions for all of us here today. If business is going well for you, great. Celebrate it, relish it, soak it up, rub it in everybody's face, not in a mean way, but because it's the truth and it is something to celebrate, because business ebbs and flows. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I'm in a traffic jam in business and I'm like, I was just going 80 miles per hour and I didn't celebrate it, right? I was totally focused on the wrong things. Oh man, you'll get there again. So if business is going well for you, celebrate, soak it up. What you focus on grows. So again, let's just relish in this moment, capitalize on it, lead, be one of the ones who says like, hey, listen, I've figured something out over here. We're going to be okay. Let me explain to you what's working for me. And be smart. Be smart. If things were to shift at some point, which they will, that's not fear-based. This is just literal history and what's always happened. Will you be prepared? Are you preparing for that? Is there some sort of nest egg or foundation built in your business to where if something does shift, if you do hit a little bit of a traffic jam, you're going to be okay. Not a big deal. You're not going to have to do anything out of integrity or do some things that you don't want to do, like take out a loan if that's not in line with you. So be smart. If business has been better, okay, if you're in a little bit of a dip, if you're in a little bit of a traffic jam, an ebb, or you're just getting started, celebrate that too. You're still in the game. You learn more in the hard season than you do the easy season. It's easy to be a business owner in the honeymoon phase. It's easy to be in a relationship in the honeymoon phase. But when do you get your stripes? When do you get your cred, your wisdom? During the harder seasons. So celebrate that too. It's okay. You're going to be okay. You have probably been through harder things. And the opportunity is here now and even more so right around the corner. So keep going, be resourceful, cut back on whatever you need to cut back on, pivot whatever needs to be pivoted. You know if some changes need to be made, be responsible enough and your own advocate to do those things, and then keep it in perspective. Blip on the radar. Screenshot and freeze frame on what will be a super long, glorious movie. Zoom out a little bit. This too shall pass. You're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. It's going to be fantastic. Okay. So before we go, I have something to share with you that some of you will absolutely be interested in, especially in this season of business. But I have created something called the Hot Offer Challenge. And the reason why I did that is because how I got here today with the successful business that I've had is through hundreds of offers. I've made over $2 million in business all through my offers. And this is a skill that I am very good at helping others adopt for themselves. I love teaching it. It's actually my favorite thing to teach. It's my favorite thing to strategize on. And I wanted to create a way that is super attainable for everybody, no matter what season you're in, to join and learn this skill for yourself and where I can actually support you in it. So I'm going to read to you what this is and give you the deets, and then we'll link it in the show notes. This is happening live. Let's see, Monday, September 4th to Friday, September 8th. So I think as this goes live, like the week after, so you will want to move fast on this. And I think there will be a price increase, I'm sure, at some point. So get on it. But this is what I have to say about the Hot Offer Challenge. There's a difference between the offer you create and hope sells and the offer you create and know will sell. a big difference. This is the difference between disappointing sales and holy shit sales. This is the difference between an attempt at an online business career and an incredibly successful online business career. And it's made within the offer itself, the pricing, and most importantly, your energy and confidence in the selling of the offer. In the Hot Offer Challenge, you will learn my proven step-by-step process to curate and sell your next no-brainer offer. Within 5 days, you receive all of the info and tools you need to make literal millions of dollars in your business, plus a day of hot seat coaching to receive feedback on your new offer. So there's going to be 4 days of training where I teach you the process. And then on day 5, you get to take what you've made over the past 4 days, and I will give you actual feedback on it. Like, hey, let's think about the pricing this way. Hey, love the title. What about this for a subtitle? Ooh, did you think about maybe structuring it this way? Okay. I'm going to get my hands on your offer. So in this challenge, you're going to receive the hot offer training taught live over 4 days, a live hot seat coaching session where you can receive feedback on your new offer, lifetime access to all recordings, and a list of all the tools and programs we use to create, record, and sell my offers. So again, this is happening starting Monday, September 4th to Friday, September 8th, and we will put the show note or the link in the show notes for you to sign up. So I will leave you with this. I believe in you. I believe in us. We are going to be okay because we have always been okay. It always works out. And this time is no different. You are the cream that rises to the top. You will be the person standing in her power when the dust settles. You just have to decide that. That's it. And then follow that with action. And if you need more support with that, come to the Hot Offer Challenge and we will rework some super juicy hot offers and get you out of your business traffic jam. I love you. I will see you here next week. Bye.